You are standing in the middle of your own life, and yet you feel like a ghost haunting your own hallways. You have checked the boxes. You have followed the map provided to you by a world that values your utility over your essence. You have achieved, or you are striving to achieve, or you have at least survived. But lately, there is a terrifying silence where your heart used to be. You look at the sunset, and it is just a color. You hold a hand, and it is just skin. You scroll through the highlight reels of 1,000 lives, and you feel nothing but a cold, heavy boredom. You are not sad. Sadness would be a luxury. Sadness is a sharp edge that proves you can still bleed. No, what you feel is a profound, echoing anesthesia. You are waiting for something to wake you up, for a tragedy or a miracle to shatter the glass. But the glass is thicker than you thought. You are starting to suspect that the you who was supposed to live this life has gone missing, leaving behind a biological machine that mimics human behavior but lacks a soul. If you are here, it is because you have realized that the world is vibrant, but you are gray. And you want to know why. You want to know if you are broken or if the world is a lie. The problem isn't that you lack emotion. It is that you have been overfed and undernourished by a system designed to keep you in a state of perpetual, shallow craving. We live in a culture that has pathologized the void. When you feel that empty ache, the matrix tells you that you are deficient. It tells you that you need more status, more digital validation, more chemical intervention, more distraction. But the emptiness is not a bug in your programming. It is a feature of your humanity that the system cannot monetize. You feel nothing because you have been living in a curated reality where every experience is a pre-packaged commodity. We have traded the raw, terrifying beauty of existence for the safety of a predictable plastic cage. You're experiencing what the ancients might call a loss of anima, a soul sickness born from living a life that is not yours. You are surrounded by noise, by the relentless demand to be on, to be productive, to be happy. But this demand is a form of violence against your inner world. It forces you to perform feeling until the capacity to actually feel withers away. You are suffering from the ultimate modern regret, the realization that you are reaching the end of your days, or at least the end of your youth, having never truly touched the ground. If this resonates, consider subscribing. Here is the twist that will change how you view your own suffering. This numbness you feel, this nothingness that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. is not your enemy. It is your invitation. It is a transition of consciousness. The reason you can no longer feel the things that used to excite you is because you have outgrown the shallow pool. Your soul is refusing to participate in the charade any longer. It is a strike. Your psyche has gone on strike against a system that asks you to be a functional cog instead of a living being. The anesthesia is a protective layer, a cocoon. You are being forced into the dark because the light you were following was artificial. When nothing makes you feel anything, it means the old world is dead and the new one hasn't been born yet. You are in the liminal space between the person you were told to be and the person you actually are. This is not a depression, it is a deconstruction. It is the moment the prisoner stops loving the walls of his cell and begins to notice the terrifying, infinite sky outside. You aren't losing your mind, you're losing your chains. To understand this, we must look at the giants who walked through this fog before us. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the last man, the being who has no more stars to reach for, who seeks only comfort and a little pleasure for the day and a little pleasure for the night. The last man is the ultimate product of the matrix. He is the person who feels nothing because he has traded his depth for security. When you feel that cold emptiness, you are feeling your rejection of the last man. You are feeling the will to power, trying to break through the crust of your polite, civilized exterior. Soren Kierkegaard warned us about the despair of not being oneself. He argued that the greatest danger is to lose oneself in the crowd, to become so well adjusted to the world that you no longer have a self to feel with. You are experiencing what Kierkegaard called the sickness unto death, a despair that comes from the realization that your life is a performance for an audience of ghosts. If this resonates, consider subscribing. Think of Martin Heidegger's concept of das Man, the they. We live most of our lives as the they. We speak what they speak, we want what they want, and we feel what they feel. But eventually, the they self collapses. The boredom you feel is what Heidegger called profound boredom. It is the moment when the world withdraws and leaves you standing in the naked presence of being itself. It is terrifying because it reveals that all the structures you relied on, your career, your social standing, your hobbies, are just costumes. Albert Camus saw this as the absurd. He noted that one day the why arises and everything begins in that weariness tinged with amazement. This weariness is the beginning of liberty. You are finally waking up to the fact that you are an infinite being trapped in a finite bureaucratic game. You are Schopenhauer's will, realizing that the objects of its desire are mere shadows. The numbness is the silence that follows the realization that the game is rigged. Imagine your life is a high-definition screen. For years, you have been staring at it, mesmerized by the colors, the drama, the fast-paced action. You felt joy when the pixels turned bright and sadness when they turned dark. But one day, something shifts. You realize you aren't the characters on the screen. You aren't even the screen itself. You are the observer sitting in a cold, dark room watching a flickering light. The reason the movie no longer moves you is that you have become aware of the projector. You can see the dust motes dancing in the beam of light. You can see the edges of the frame. This is a visceral, gut-wrenching awakening. It is like being in a room full of people who are eating plastic fruit and raving about the flavor, while you are the only one who has suddenly realized that it's all wax. You try to take a bite, and your teeth click against the hard, tasteless surface. You look at your friends, and they are chewing and smiling, their eyes empty. This is the central metaphor of the modern condition. We are starving in a hall of plenty because the plenty is a holographic projection. The numbness is your body's way of telling you that it can no longer digest the lie. You are hungry for reality, but reality is messy, painful, and uncoordinated, the exact opposite of the streamlined experience the system provides. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The danger now is that you will try to fix this feeling with the very things that caused it. The system is terrified of your numbness because a numb person might stop consuming. So, it offers you a pharmacy of distractions. It offers you hedonism, the pursuit of the next spike, the next hit, the next high. It tells you that if you don't feel anything, you just need a bigger dose. Travel to a more exotic location, buy a faster car, find a more exciting partner, scroll through more extreme content. This is the dopaminergic trap. It is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Every time you chase a shallow pleasure to escape the void, you thicken the glass between you and your soul. You become a pleasure machine in a state of constant decay. The Matrix wants you to be a functional addict, oscillating between anxiety and exhaustion. It does not want you to sit in the silence, because in the silence, you might hear the heartbeat of your own rebellion. Avoid the trap of optimizing your way out of this. You cannot hack your way into a meaningful life. You cannot use a productivity app to find your soul. Vapid positivity and hustle culture are just more layers of the plastic fruit. They are the mechanisms of a system that views you as a battery, not a human being. The new paradigm requires a radical act of surrender. It requires you to stop running from the void and instead to inhabit it. To live of truth is to accept the weight of your own existence. It is to move from a life of doing to a life of being. This is not about finding a purpose that looks good on a resume. It is about finding a presence that feels real in your bones. Authenticity is not a destination. It is the courage to be exactly where you are, even if where you are is a place of profound emptiness. Vivre diver dage, to live for real, means reclaiming your right to suffer, to grieve, and to be confused. It means tearing down the they self and standing in the wreckage. When you stop trying to feel what you are supposed to feel, you create a space for what is actually there to emerge. And what is often there is a vast, quiet integrity. It is the realization that you don't need the world to provide you with meaning. You are the source of meaning. You are the one who gives the sunset its power by being present to it, not by photographing it for an audience. If this resonates, consider subscribing. You might argue, but I need to be functional. I have bills to pay, a family to support. I can't just sit in the void. This is a valid fear, and the system uses it to keep you in line. It tells you that authenticity is a luxury for the rich or the mad. But I tell you that the most expensive thing you will ever own is a life you didn't live. Valuing your sanity and your soul is not an act of irresponsibility. It is the ultimate act of responsibility. You are no use to your family or your community if you are a hollow shell. When you are numb, you are a ghost, and ghosts cannot love. They can only haunt. By facing the emptiness, you are not abandoning your duties. You are finally bringing a self to them. You are moving from a place of mechanical obligation to a place of conscious choice. Yes, it is terrifying. Yes, it feels like falling. But as the psychologist Carl Jung said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. The functionality the system demands is a slow death. The dysfunction of your awakening is the beginning of your life. Let me tell you about a man I knew. He was the definition of success. He had the corner office, the beautiful family, the respect of his peers. He had spent 40 years building a fortress of security. But one Tuesday afternoon, while sitting in a meeting about quarterly projections, he looked at the pen in his hand and realized he didn't know who was holding it. He felt a sudden, crushing sense of nothingness. He looked at his colleagues, and they looked like animatronic puppets. He went home, and his house felt like a movie set. He tried to fix it. He went on a luxury cruise. He felt like he was floating on a ship of the dead. He bought a vintage sports car. It felt like a toy for a child he no longer was. He hit a point of total hedonic collapse. He stopped eating, stopped talking. He sat in his garden for weeks, staring at the dirt. People thought he was having a breakdown. But in that collapse, the noise finally stopped. Without the pursuit of feeling, something real began to stir. He noticed the way the light hit a leaf. He felt the cold air on his skin. He realized that for 40 years, he had been chasing a ghost. And now that the ghost was gone, he was finally, for the first time, actually there. He didn't go back to his old life. He didn't become a monk either. He simply started living from the inside out, rather than the outside in. He was no longer a slave to the they. If this resonates, consider subscribing. This process is a metaphor for death and rebirth. You are like a seed that has been kept in a sterile plastic bag. You are safe, you are preserved, but you are not growing. To grow, you must be thrown into the dirt. You must be covered in darkness. You must decompose. The you that you thought you were, the personality, the ego, the social mask, must rot away so that the life force inside can break through the shell. The emptiness you feel is the shell cracking. It is the moment of decomposition where you are no longer a seed, but not yet a plant. This is why it feels like nothing makes sense. Of course it doesn't. You are in the soil now. The void is not a pit, it is a womb. It is the master that teaches you what is essential by stripping away everything that is not. When you are in the void, you are being refined. You are being forced to find a light that doesn't come from a screen or a social cue. You are finding the light that comes from the core of your own being. So what do? How do you inhabit this space? First, stop apologizing for your numbness. Stop trying to cure it. Recognize that your lack of feeling is a sophisticated protest against a shallow world. Second, start recognizing the conditioning of the system. Notice when you are performing a personality for others. Notice the shoulds that dictate your day. When you feel the urge to escape into dopaminergic loops, the infinite scroll, the mindless consumption, stop just for a minute. Sit with the boredom. Let it wash over you like a cold tide. Don't try to make it go away. Ask it, what are you protecting me from? Or what are you trying to show me? Third, start making contact with the visceral. Touch the earth. Look at the sky without a lens. Speak the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Authenticity is found in the friction between your soul and the world. Parar de fugir. Stop running. The thing you are running from is the only thing that can save you. If this resonates, consider subscribing. What we have explored is a reinterpretation of your misery. The hidden reason nothing feels real is that you have finally become too real for the world you inhabit. You have reached the edge of the matrix, and your lack of feeling is the sensory deprivation that occurs when you step out of the simulation. It is the silence between the loud, fake music of the system and the deep, resonant symphony of existence. This is not the end. It is the liberation. You are being stripped of your illusions so that you can finally be clothed in your truth. The numbness is the birth pang of a free man. You are no longer a consumer of life. You are becoming a creator of it. The path ahead is not easy, but it is the only path that leads anywhere worth going. You have been a ghost for long enough. It is time to become flesh. In the end, the system can give you everything except the one thing you actually need, the feeling of being alive. That you must claim for yourself in the dark, in the quiet, and in the honest admission that the old way is dead. The void is not your enemy. It is the horizon where your real life begins. You were never meant to fit into this world. You were meant to outgrow it. And now you finally have. Remember, the world hasn't lost its color. You've just finally realized that you're the one holding the brush. So, you have accepted the silence. You have looked into the mirror and realized that the person staring back is a stranger, a collection of habits and social cues tailored for a world that does not know your name. You are standing on the edge of the abyss, and for the first time, you aren't trying to walk away. You are starting to understand that the numbness isn't a wall, it's a door. But here is the terrifying truth that part one only whispered: waking up doesn't make the world any easier. In fact, it makes it much harder. Because once you stop being a ghost, you have to deal with the weight of being a body. You have to deal with the gravity of a world that is designed to keep you floating in a state of comfortable, digital suspension. You are currently in the most dangerous phase of your transformation. You have realized the game is rigged, but you haven't yet learned how to breathe outside the machine. You feel like you are suffocating because you are finally inhaling the thin, cold air of reality after a lifetime of breathing, the recycled, climate-controlled oxygen of the matrix. If you feel like nothing makes you feel anything, it is because you are finally refusing to be stimulated. You are refusing to be a puppet, but you haven't yet learned how to move your own limbs. The problem you face now is not the void, it is the friction. The matrix is not just a collection of screens and algorithms. It is a bioneurological prison. It has mapped your nervous system. It knows exactly how much dopamine it takes to keep you from screaming. It knows exactly how much anxiety it takes to keep you productive. When you stop feeling the way you used to, the system detects a malfunction. It tries to pull you back in by heightening the stakes. This is why, as you try to awaken, life often becomes more chaotic. Your relationships might fracture, your career might feel like a cage of hot iron, and your old hobbies might feel like dust in your mouth. You are experiencing the withdrawal symptoms of a soul addiction. We have been trained from birth to outsource our internal state to external inputs. We have been taught that if we don't feel good, we are failing. But good in the system's language is just another word for compliant. The numbness you are feeling is your psyche's radical act of non-compliance. You are sitting in the center of the storm, and the world is screaming at you to find cover. But there is no cover. There is only the storm, and your willingness to stand in it. If this resonates, consider subscribing. This leads us to the second, deeper twist in our journey. The nothingness is not the absence of life, but the presence of too much truth. You feel nothing because you are finally seeing through the glare of the artificial sun. When you stand in a room that is too bright, you are blinded. When you listen to a sound that is too loud, you go deaf. The modern world is a sensory and emotional overload designed to keep you from noticing the absolute stillness at the center of your being. Your numbness is a calibration. You are dimming the lights so you can finally see the stars. You are silencing the noise so you can finally hear your own pulse. What you thought was a tragedy, the loss of your capacity to feel, is actually your greatest weapon. It is the beginning of a radical emotional sobriety. For the first time, you are not being dragged around by your impulses or your fears. You are standing still, and in that stillness, you are becoming dangerous to the system. A man who wants nothing, who fears nothing, and who can sit in the silence without flinching is a man the Matrix cannot control. To understand the architecture of this prison, we must look to the thinkers who saw the blueprints. Gilles Deleuze spoke of societies of control. He argued that we have moved past the old, visible walls of the factory and the prison into a world where control is fluid, digital, and internal. We are no longer governed by no, but by more. More connectivity, more transparency, more consumption. The system doesn't need to lock you in a cell when it can lock you in a feedback loop. Michel Foucault described biopower, the way the state and the system manage life itself. They manage your health, your reproduction, and your very desires. When you feel nothing, you are stepping out of the biopower grid. You are becoming a biological anomaly. You are refusing to have your life managed. You are reclaiming the territory of your own heart. This is the great refusal that Herbert Marcuse wrote about, the refusal to participate in a one-dimensional existence where every human potential is reduced to a commercial transaction. If this resonates, consider subscribing. Think of Viktor Frankl, who found meaning in the ultimate void of the concentration camps. He observed that those who survived were not necessarily the strongest, but those who could find a why that transcended their suffering. But today the why is being systematically deleted. We are being sold a how without a why. How to be more productive, how to be more attractive, how to be more successful. But we have forgotten why we are alive in the first place. Schopenhauer was right when he said that life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. The Matrix has tried to stop the pendulum by freezing us in a state of eternal, shallow distraction. But the pendulum must swing. To feel true joy, you must be able to feel true agony. To feel true presence, you must be able to face the total absence of meaning. The numbness is the pendulum being released. You are moving through the center point. It feels like nothing because it is the point of zero gravity. But soon, the swing will continue, and you will begin to feel things that the system has no names for. Imagine you're a deep-sea diver who has lived your entire life at the bottom of the ocean. You are used to the crushing pressure, the darkness, and the strange, bioluminescent lures of the creatures that live there. One day, you begin to ascend. As you rise, the pressure begins to drop. Your lungs feel strange. Your eyes hurt as the light from the surface begins to penetrate the depths. The numbness is the decompression sickness of the soul. You are rising toward the surface of your own life, and the transition is physically and emotionally agonizing. The bioluminescent lures, the pleasures of the system, no longer attract you, but you aren't yet in the sunlight. You are in the twilight zone, where everything is gray and weightless. Most people get terrified at this stage and dive back down to the pressure they know. They would rather be crushed by a familiar weight than be free in an unfamiliar lightness. But you must keep rising. The surface is closer than you think. The lightness you feel as nothingness is actually the beginning of your freedom from gravity. You are becoming an atmospheric being. You are moving from the liquid of the masses to the air of the individual. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The Matrix will try to offer you shadow work, as a way to stay relevant. It will tell you to monetize your healing or brand your trauma. It will turn your awakening into a new form of consumption. This is a subtle and deadly trap. It invites you to become a connoisseur of your own misery. It wants you to stay in the loop of self-analysis so you never actually have to act. This is the trap of the eternal student or the spiritual seeker who never finds. They are addicts of the process but they are terrified of the result. The result is simple and brutal. You are alone, you are responsible, and you are free. The system hates this result because a free person cannot be sold a solution. Beware of any healing that requires a subscription. Beware of any wisdom that promises to make you more effective in the system's eyes. True awakening is a subtraction, not an addition. It is the loss of your illusions, the loss of your excuses, and eventually the loss of your very self-image. It is a fire that consumes the you thought you were, leaving only the you that cannot be burned. The new paradigm is not about finding happiness, a fleeting chemical state that the system uses as a carrot on a stick. The new paradigm is about amor fati, the love of one's fate. It is the radical acceptance of everything that is, including the void, including the pain, including the uncertainty. It is what Spinoza called blessedness, not the reward for virtue, but virtue itself. It is the joy that comes from the expansion of your own power to exist. When you stop waiting for the world to make you feel something, you start to feel the power of your own existence radiating outward. You move from being a consumer of experience to being a generator of reality. This is the shift from the they self to the own self. It is the moment you realize that you don't have a life. You are life, and life does not need to feel a certain way to be valid. A mountain does not need to feel happy to be majestic. A storm does not need to feel productive to be powerful. You are a force of nature that has been convinced it is a customer. The new paradigm is the reclamation of your natural state. If this resonates, consider subscribing. You might feel a deep resistance to this. You might think, if I stop caring about the things the system tells me to care about, I will lose everything. I will be isolated. I will be poor. I will be a failure. This is the voice of the parasite speaking through your vocal cords. The system survives by convincing you that your survival depends on it. But look at the people who have succeeded in the system. Are they truly alive? Or are they just more expensive ghosts? The isolation you fear is actually the beginning of true connection. You cannot truly connect with another human being until you have disconnected from the they. Until then, you are just two masks talking to each other. The poverty you fear is often just the loss of the clutter that keeps you distracted. And the failure you fear is the most important success you will ever have, the failure to be a good slave. Validating your fear is important, but don't let it be your captain. Your fear is a compass pointing toward the things you must do to be free. The path to authenticity is paved with the things the Matrix told you to avoid. Consider the story of a woman who spent her life as a perfect citizen. She was a high-level executive, a devoted socialite, and a master of the aesthetic life. Her Instagram was a masterpiece of curated joy, but inside she was a hollowed-out shell. She felt nothing. She went to therapy, took the pills, did the yoga retreats, but the void only grew. One day, during a black tie gala, she looked at the glass of expensive champagne in her hand and saw it for what it was, a liquid distraction. She didn't have a breakdown, she had a breakthrough. She walked out of the gala, left her phone on a park bench, and walked until her feet bled. She ended up in a small town where nobody knew her name. She took a job cleaning stables. For months she didn't speak. She just cleaned, breathed, and existed. She lost her status, her friends, and her wealth. But one morning, as she watched the sun rise over the barn, she felt a sharp, piercing coldness in the air. And for the first time in 20 years, she felt a genuine, unforced tear roll down her cheek. She wasn't happy. She was there. She had traded the holographic palace for a wooden shed, and in that shed, she found her soul. She realized that her success was a form of anesthesia, and her failure was her first real breath. If this resonates, consider subscribing. The metaphor of the crystal is essential here. Imagine your soul is a perfect, clear crystal. The Matrix has spent years coating that crystal in layers of thick gray lead. It tells you the lead is protection, education, and socialization. Eventually, the crystal is so covered that no light can get in or out. You look at the world through the lead, and everything looks gray and heavy. You feel nothing because the light of your own essence cannot reach your senses. To wake up is to shatter the lead, but lead is soft and heavy. It doesn't shatter easily. It must be melted or scraped away. This is a visceral, painful process. It feels like you are being flayed. You are losing your skin. But as the lead falls away, the light begins to hit the crystal again. At first, it is blinding and painful. You want to put the lead back on. You miss the gray comfort. But if you stay in the light, the crystal begins to refract it. You start to see colors you didn't know existed. You start to feel the vibration of the universe in your very marrow. The numbness was just the weight of the lead. The nothing was just the absence of light. Now you are becoming a prism. You are no longer just a spectator. You are the way the universe sees itself. How do you practicalize this in a world that wants you to stay leaden? You must practice radical silence. Not just the absence of talking, but the absence of input. Turn off the podcast, close the tabs. Sit in a room with nothing but your own breath for an hour every day. At first, it will be agony. Your mind will scream for a hit of digital sugar. You will feel the nothingness like a physical weight. Stay there. This is habitare vacío, inhabiting the void. This is where you learn to tell the difference between yourself and the program. Second, practice sensory fasting. Stop seeking the peak experiences, eat simple food, walk in the cold. Reconnect with the raw, unedited physical world. The matrix lives in the hyper-real, the world that is more real than real. You need to get back to the infra-real, the world that is just what it is. Third, reclaim your body. The system wants you to be a brain in a vat connected to a screen. Move your body in ways that have no purpose. Dance, sweat, bleed, feel the exhaustion that comes from physical effort, not digital anxiety. This is how you break the glass. This is how you stop being a ghost. If this resonates, consider subscribing. What we are doing here is reinterpreting your numbness as the white noise of a new frequency. You are like a radio that has been tuned to the same static-filled station for decades. Suddenly, the station goes silent. You think the radio is broken, but the radio isn't broken. The station has just stopped broadcasting. You are being invited to turn the dial. You are being invited to find a frequency that isn't owned by a corporation or a government. The numbness is the silence between the old world and the new. It is the necessary pause before the music begins. You're not depressed in the clinical sense. You are depressed in the geological sense. You are being compressed into a diamond. The pressure of the system is the very thing that is refining you, provided you don't break. You are the beginning of a new species of human, the one who can no longer be fooled by the simulation. You are the glitch that is becoming a feature. The final synthesis is this. The reason nothing makes you feel anything is because you are finally ready to feel everything. You have outgrown the shallow, binary emotions of sad and happy. You are moving into the realm of the sublime, the feeling of being in the presence of something so vast and terrifying that it destroys the ego. The matrix cannot provide the sublime. It can only provide the pleasant. You are refusing the pleasant because you are hungry for the sublime. You are trading the safety of the harbor for the terror of the open sea. This is not a loss. It is the ultimate gain. You are finally, for the first time, in control of the ship. The numbness is the moment the engines cut out and you realize you have sails. You don't need the engine anymore. You have the wind, and the wind is free. The ghost is finally fading, and the man is finally appearing. You have spent your life trying to find yourself in the mirror of the world, only to realize that the world is a funhouse mirror designed to distort you. The numbness is the moment you stop looking at the mirror and start looking at the one who is looking. You are the source. You are the light. You are the void. And in that realization, the matrix loses its power over you forever. You are no longer waiting for a reason to feel. You are the reason feeling exists. You are the heartbeat of a universe that is finally waking up from a long, gray dream. The silence is not the end of the story. It is the moment the author picks up the pen. If this resonates, consider subscribing. We have traveled from the shock of anesthesia to the realization of the prison, and finally to the threshold of a new existence. You have seen how the system uses your own biology to keep you in a state of functional death. You have seen how the philosophers of the abyss can be your guides through the fog. You have understood that your numbness is a form of protection, a cocoon that is now beginning to crack. The journey from here is yours alone. There are no more maps, because maps are for the world you have left behind. You are now a cartographer of your own soul. You are walking into a territory where the only landmarks are your own integrity and your own presence. Do not be afraid of the nothing. The nothing is the canvas, and you are the one who holds the brush. The system will continue to scream. The screens will continue to flicker. The world will continue to demand that you be a ghost. But you know better now. You have felt the weight of your own blood. You have heard the silence of your own soul. You have seen the lead start to fall away. You are no longer a consumer, a cog, or a ghost. You are a living, breathing, feeling anomaly in a world of plastic. You are the one who stayed awake when the lights went out. You are the one who found the fire in the center of the ice. And that fire, once lit, can never be extinguished by the system. It can only be passed on. If this resonates, consider subscribing. You are standing at the end of the old world. Behind you is the wreckage of a life built on shoulds and supposed tos. Ahead of you is a vast, unmapped wilderness. It is cold, it is quiet, and it is absolutely yours. The numbness has done its job. It has stripped you of your distractions and left you naked in the presence of being. Now the real work begins. The work of building a life that is of truth. The work of speaking words that are your own. The work of loving with a heart that is no longer protected by lead. It is the most difficult thing you will ever do, and it is the only thing that is worth doing. You have been a ghost for a long time. It's time to see what a human can really do. You have spent your entire life being told that the goal of existence is to be full of information, full of food, full of experiences, full of feelings. But the truth is that the goal of existence is to be empty. To be so empty of the system's programming that you can finally be filled with the reality of the moment. The numbness was the process of emptying. It was the clearing of the temple. Now that the temple is empty, something sacred can finally enter. Something that doesn't need a screen, a drug, or a validation to exist. Something that is just you in the raw, terrifying beauty of the now. The Matrix is a dream that we all agree to have together. Waking up is the act of disagreeing. It is the act of saying no to the dream so you can say yes to the wakers. The numbness was your first no. It was the silence of a man who has stopped laughing at a joke that isn't funny. It was the stillness of a woman who has stopped dancing to a song she can't hear. It was the beginning of your sovereignty. Hold on to that silence. Guard that stillness. It is the most precious thing you own. It is the only part of you that the system can't touch. It is your anchor in the storm. If this resonates, consider subscribing. We began this journey by looking at the ghost in the hallway. We looked at the anesthesia of the modern soul and the profound boredom of the last man. We saw how Nietzsche, Kierkegaard, and Heidegger warned us of the they-self and the despair of not being oneself. We explored the visceral metaphor of the deep-sea diver and the lead-coated crystal. We understood that fixing the numbness is a trap and that inhabiting the void is the only way through. We have seen that your failure to feel is actually your success as a human being. It is the moment you have stopped being a thing and started being a who. And so, we return to the beginning. You are standing in the middle of your life, and the silence is still there. But it feels different now, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like a wall anymore. It feels like a horizon. It doesn't feel like a lack. It feels like a potential. The world is still gray, the screens are still flickering, and the people are still eating plastic fruit. But you are no longer one of them. You are the one who knows it's wax. You are the one who's looking for the real fruit, even if it's bitter, even if it's hard to find. You are the one who is finally, truly awake. The system will never forgive you for waking up, but the universe will never forget that you did. You have broken the spell. You have stepped out of the feedback loop. You have reclaimed your right to the void. And in that void, you will find everything you ever thought you lost. You will find the colors, the sounds, and the feelings that were always there, waiting for you to be real enough to touch them. The numbness was not the end of your feeling. It was the beginning of your truth. Remember, the system didn't take your feelings. It just gave you a world that wasn't worth feeling. Now that you've seen the lie, you can finally start building a world that is. The ghost is gone. The man is here. And the silence is finally beautiful. Remember, the world hasn't lost its color. You've just finally realized that you're the one holding the brush.